So, my name is Jason. I'm one of the pastors here. It's good to be with you all. I just, earlier today, when people were walking in, my mentor, Tim, is here, who is my dearest friend and compadre, so I'm like extra nervous. We've both watched our hair leave our heads over the years. Yeah. All right, so we are going to be in Luke 22. And what I really like is, since we don't have this side of the screen, for those of you who can find a Bible, I'd like for you to grab it. And I'm going to just pause while you do that. So they're in the back of the pews. If you were in the red Bibles, it's page 80 or 81 in the New Testament. And I don't know what it is in the other Bibles, but I really do want you to read along with me. Yes, Kim.
So there's a great app, the Holy Bible app.
Thank you.
And I just
Yes. If you are a screen person, there's no shame in that. But it's a little bit of a longer text today, so I'd like you to read it with me, and we'll just see where this goes. I'm a fidgeter, so I have something in my hand that I fidget with. If you're a fidgeter, I encourage you to fidget. Sometimes I go off script, sometimes I don't. So we'll see where this is headed today. Cool. So let's see, Luke chapter 22, verses 1 through 21. And you might have a different translation on your phone, or just notice the differences as we read along. This one is the NRSV, the best one. It's the most accurate. 1995 version. There are a lot of versions of Bibles out there, and it is just a testimony to what interpretation is. I know there are some people who are like, this is the one, but really everyone's just trying to figure it out, and so find something that kind of works for you. Stay engaged with it as you're able to. All right, so it says, now the festival of unleavened bread, which is called the Passover, was near. The chief priests and the scribes were looking for a way to put Jesus to death, for they were afraid of the people. Then Satan entered into Judas, called Iscariot, who was one of the 12. He went away and conferred with the chief priests and officers of the temple police about how he might betray him to them. They were greatly pleased and agreed to give him money. So he consented and began to look for an opportunity to betray him to them when no crowd was present. Then came the day of unleavened bread, on which the Passover lamb to be sacrificed. So Jesus sent Peter and John, saying, "Go and prepare the Passover meal for us, that we may eat it." They asked him, "Where do you want us to make preparations for it?" "Listen," he said to them, "when you have entered the city, a man carrying a jar of water will meet you. Follow him into the house he enters, and say to the owner of the house, 'The teacher asks you, where is the guest room, where I may eat the Passover with my disciples?' He will show you a large room upstairs, already furnished. Make preparations for us there." So they went, and they found everything as he had told them, and they prepared the Passover meal. When the hour came, he took his place at the table, and the apostles with him. He said to them, "I have eagerly desired to eat this Passover with you before I suffer. For I tell you, I will not eat it until it is fulfilled in the kingdom of God." Then he took a cup, and after giving thanks, he said, "Take this and divide it amongst yourselves. For I tell you that from now on I will not drink of the fruit of the vine until the kingdom of God comes." Then he took a loaf, and when he had given thanks, he broke it and gave it to them, saying, "This is my body, which is given for you. Do this in remembrance of me." And he did the same with the cup after supper, saying, "This cup is poured out is the new covenant in my blood. But see, the one who betrays me is with me, and his hand is on the table. For the Son of Man is going as it has been determined, but woe to that one by whom he is betrayed." Then he began to ask one another which one of them it could be who would do this. May the Lord add a blessing to his word. Just any initial reactions or thoughts to that text as we kind of...
I'm kind of scared and concerned when it says Satan
Okay?
Is Judah the tribe or a specific person?
Judas.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. Still scary, but
So yeah, Judas. Good question.
I forget about Satan sometimes in our love and light that, not so great things out there.
Yeah. Any other thoughts, observations, curiosities? Okay, well, we'll just see where this goes. I'm asking for your participation. All right, so we're on the final leg of Jesus' journey to earth, physical journey on earth. And so the text tells us that we're in the time of the year called the Feast of Unleavened Bread. So we're going to spend just 2-3 minutes just kind of going into what that is, because I think it's an important piece of backdrop for the rest of this story. So one of the most significant things in the Bible, in the Old Testament, is called the Exodus. Everyone know what I mean when I say that? It's okay if you don't. I'm going to explain it here in just a minute. There are 3 movements in Exodus that I think are worth highlighting. I mean, you can break it up all kinds of ways, but I feel like there's 3 kind of significant parts. So the first movement is the Exodus was needed because Israel was enslaved to Egypt and oppressed by Egypt. God had promised that the descendants of Abraham would be rescued from there and brought into a land that was their own. But at this point, Pharaoh and his armies, his might, and the gods of Egypt, all those things sort of stood in the way of Israel getting freedom. So you sort of get the picture. Israel is enslaved by Egypt right now. So in the middle of this, in the course of this, there are plagues that God brings upon Egypt. There are 10 plagues, and they all have kind of correlation with different gods of Egypt. But the last one is called the plague of death of the firstborn. I know, it's a great title. And so in order to be immune from this plague, the Israelites had to have a meal. They had to celebrate a meal. This meal turns out to have been very, very symbolic. It consisted of a lamb that was examined for 4 days without defect. It was pure, it was spotless. It was slaughtered on after the examination of those 4 days, and then it was slaughtered at twilight. And the instructions get very, very specific. So in the Bible, it is so important when we're reading, the details matter. There's a reason why this was mentioned or this person was mentioned and then isn't mentioned again, and sometimes there's repetition. There's all sorts of things that we can draw our attention to. Just pay attention to those things as you engage. So the instructions get specific. The lamb is to be roasted over fire, not raw or boiled. It must be eaten inside the house, and it must be eaten only at night. It must only be given to those who are circumcised. And then there was wine. Now, we don't really know if this was true of the original Passover, but by the time of Jesus, there were 4 different cups of wine that had very symbolic meaning. Has anybody ever been to a Passover meal or Seder? A few of you. So there's 4 wine. There's a lot of, it's not to get drunk, but they all have these readings that you do. It's absolutely beautiful and meaningful. If you ever get a chance and you're invited to be a part of one, I encourage you to partake if you can. So all these cups have very symbolic meanings. And so the wine was so important that even the poorest person in Israel should not eat until he reclines. And they were to give him no fewer than 4 cups of wine. Anybody ever drink 4 cups of wine? It is not a good idea, right? So it's a really significant part of the meal. So then you have wine, and from wine we get wine from what? From grapes, blood from the grapes. It symbolized the blood of the lamb that was going to go on the doorposts of the house of the Israelites. Are you with me so far? Okay, hold on, Kim, we're not going there yet. So I promise, we'll get there. So then, so they're eating and they're drinking, and then all this is happening around them. You have the lamb, you have the wine, and then you took some of the blood and you fixed it on the doorposts of your house, and then you had to stay inside. And then you made unleavened bread. And it was bread that was made very quickly, and it was not to be given time to rise. Why? Because you would be leaving very soon. And so Israel was to sit with their sandals on, their cloaks, their staffs ready, and then eat this bread that could travel well. So movement number 1 is about the meal, okay? Movement number 2 in the Exodus is the parting of the sea, okay? Charleston Heston. Only some of you, who doesn't know that reference? Be honest. You don't know Charleston Heston. Okay, we are going to watch later the Ten Commandments. He's Moses in this movie, and he leads the people out of the Red Sea. So the sea is parted. There's this water miracle where the chaos and the sea parts, and Moses leads them. And so the nation of Israel goes through to dry land on the other side. So that's movement number 2. Movement number 3 is the Israelites wandering in the desert. So they're in the desert, and they have the unleavened bread, and it runs out. And they look around, and they go, where will we get bread to eat? So God provides something called manna, which they named bread from heaven. And then there was a test associated with this provision of manna, because there was only enough given for one day. So if you took more than you needed, it would spoil. And then you had the Sabbath day. And on the Sabbath day, you had to take 2 days' worth because you weren't to gather anything else on the Sabbath. So I know that's sort of a lot, but there's these 3 movements. And I'm saying all this because when it says the Feast of Unleavened Bread, this is all that is happening in the background of these people partaking in this particular festival, okay, which is eventually called Passover. Are you with me so far? Okay, how many movements were there? 3. The meal, the parting. What was the third one? Wandering. Man, you guys are good. This is great. Okay. All right, so any quick thoughts just about that? Okay, Kim? Real quick.
Wine back then in Old and New Testament was only like 1% alcohol, correct?
I don't know the percentage. I've heard lower. I wasn't there. Yeah. Thank you, Kim. Any other questions or comments about where we're at? We're only at the feast. We're not going to do all of it, I promise. All right. Okay, so this is part of the backdrop. So the second part of the backdrop that I want to highlight, which my attention was drawn to this week, has to do with Judas. So not Judah, but Judas. So Judas is one of the 12 disciples. So next week, I believe Jeff is teaching, and he's going to talk about Judas a bit more. No, okay. So we're going to talk about Judas today. All right, but I love, I really love this particular. I like that Judas is included here and the things about Judas, and here's why. So, Judas in the story is known as the betrayer. I love it because I think it speaks to the imperfect humanity of the people that Jesus is ministering to. The people that Jesus has that are closest to him. I mean, he's got these 12 people, and here we are. There's this one detail about this one guy that says he is going to betray him. The text tells us that Satan entered Judas. Now, we can speculate about what this means, but my take on it is that it's telling us that we're supposed to be aware that there's evil around, okay? I don't know if it was demonic possession or what that was, and I'm not here to talk about that so much as like there are adversarial forces around us. And I think that if it's not so much about Satan entering Judas as much as it is about Judas opening himself up to the plot about killing and doing and turning Jesus in and doing what I would call Satan's bidding. So remember, it's the chief priests and the scribes that are the ones who are looking for a way to arrest Jesus. Not Judas at this point, but Judas is the one who volunteers, okay? He's the one who joins ranks, and he's like, okay, I'm going to take part in this. So he's making a choice in this. And I love this, that the text includes this part of it. And I don't exactly know what caused Judas to do it, but that's what I love about Judas, because I think it's true for all of us, for all of humanity. For all of us in this room, sometimes we are often co-opted by forces around us to do things to those closest to us that attempts sometimes to break the bonds with that person. Often, when you ask someone why they did something that went against their very nature, their beliefs, their values, and their morals, has anybody ever been there? Just a few of you? No, but that goes against their beliefs and their values and their morals. They say that a lot of them will say the same things. They'll say, I never meant to hurt you. I don't know what came over me. I don't know why I did that. Now, this isn't to excuse whatever they did. That's not what I'm saying here. But they're enticed by something. But that's how temptation works, right? We, most of the time, are not looking for ways to hurt those around us, but sometimes an offer might present itself. And that gives the illusion of enticement or adventure or risk, or the grass is greener on the other side. And is the grass greener on the other side?
Not always.
Well, no, it's normally not, right? Because we take ourselves with us, right? And sometimes we step into that temptation, we step into that plot, whatever it is, for whatever reason we do it, and then we find what? We find that it was an illusion. It really wasn't what it was supposed to be. Are you with me so far? Is this connecting with anybody? If it's not, just go like, nah, I'm not getting this. It's okay. And every one of us can do this. Every one of us probably has done this on some level. And why we do it, we don't always know. Judas did it for money. Sometimes we do it for money. And it said the text tells us he began seeking a good opportunity to deliver him over, to betray him, to betray Jesus. This is someone who he has walked with for a few years. It's like me betraying Tim or Scott. For some reason, I decide I'm going to go do this, and it suddenly has broken our connection with one another, right? And the text tells us that he didn't want his actions to be noticed. I mean, the scribes and the Pharisees were trying to do it kind of secretly, but sometimes that's how temptation works, right? It's secret. We don't want other people to know about it. Why? Shame? We feel embarrassed by it. I was talking with my friend Matt on Friday. We had coffee together for a couple hours. And I was just sharing with him about just as I do, I just kind of wrestle with the text throughout the week. And he is just a person of wisdom. And he said this. We have this. So he says, if Genesis is my birth, and the law is the world's way of always ranking, judging, blaming, and Christ is my spiritual life that overcomes through relationship and connection, and Revelation is my ultimate physical death, when the transformation and the union in God will be complete. So if all that, then Judas is the part of myself that loses faith and betrays my spiritual life, and doing so betrays himself as well. We betray ourselves sometimes, right? Why do we do it? What's that? Sure.
What's speaking to me is like when we're hurting or in pain, we're going to seek things out.
Anybody else? Yeah, pause.
It's fun.
It's fun? Yeah.
Way. But yes.
Okay. Yeah, there's a real it's fun.
It's a whole lot easier.
It's a whole lot easier to betray ourselves. Bring that into me. Bring me into that a little more.
It's just easier to just go to whatever your natural human instinct is than to try to change behaviors, change whatever.
Yeah.
That's good.
Anybody else? Yeah.
Perhaps short-sightedness.
Okay.
Because a lot of times we do things that give instant gratification, but negative effects in the long term.
Yeah, thanks. Others?
Fear.
Fear?
Fear. Yeah, I think Judas might have been afraid, seeing the tide turning and seeing to be on the winning team, maybe, or just afraid what could happen.
Yeah. Anyone else?
There's also a sense of like not feeling capable of doing something, especially with like maybe he didn't feel worthy of being a follower of Jesus. And so betraying him and working with other people, he felt like he could do that. Like it was something he was capable of.
Yeah.
He felt like he would be more, I don't know, maybe fulfilled doing that. He felt like he could live up to that.
Thank you for that. That's great. Let's go Wes and then Thomas. Hold on, Thomas. Go ahead, Wes.
I was just say, I think sometimes our personal values, like we see them very idealistically, and I think sometimes maybe not accurately. That makes sense. Like we might think we value Christ, but we value money or we value comfort more than we realize or are willing to admit. And when it comes to a decision point, like I think our values are exposed.
Yeah. Thank you. Thomas.
Yeah, I think we can be cursed. I think if we're not spiritually fit, if we're not praying, seeking God, His will, I think an obsession, a compulsion, a temptation, an impulse, we're all guilty of that. Nobody's perfect. The easiest person to beat up is yourself. I mean, if you're going to beat somebody up. So I think that the curse, Satan's alive and well, and cursing, there is, you just said 10 curses. There is some truth to that. There is some real, and if we're not trying to walk in God's ways, we're all tempted.
Thanks, Thomas.
Sometimes we have.
Scott.
I'd say blind spots, vast tracts of blindness that lead to weird storytelling, that lead to weird decisions, that lead to betrayal.
Yeah, that's good.
Not telling the truth to ourselves.
Yeah. Anybody from this side?
Okay, sure.
Oh, yeah.
Since you're forcing this. I'd say approval sometimes.
Approval. Approval of others?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like certain groups, you feel like if this, then maybe they will work with you or whatever. It might be hard peer pressure, but maybe out of
Yeah.
excellence.
Thanks. Thank you, everyone. Yes, Jenny.
In some things, we don't recognize that we have a bad habit until it's time to change it, and then by then we're so stuck in what's familiar that it's hard to come out of the familiar to do something that does reflect who knows better for ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for offering your take. I just love it so much because I'm just one person sort of sharing what I have seen and what God showed me this week, and you all just enrich the picture so much more. It's just this canvas with more colors of paint on it that we're like, whoa, okay, wow, there's more to this. It's really quite beautiful. I feel blessed to be a part of it. So part of us, this betrayal that Judas does as it relates to us is sometimes I look at it as when we do these things, it's forgetting who we are. There's this thing that this one pastor here, Bethany, that she says more than anything. What does Bethany tell us more than anything? We are a beloved child. She says that over and over and over. And she does these TikToks every day. And it's always, she says the same thing. And she's always like, I just say the same thing. I'm like, I know, I love it. I just asked our church what she says, and you all said the same thing. What a thing to tell someone. Because that's the core of who you are. That's what is most true. That is what is true of you most and ultimately what defines you. Here's the second part of what my friend Matt says. He says, that's why Judas meets his end by his own hand. Each of us has a betrayer within, one from whom no amount of love and connection will be enough. but we are also not defined by our inner Judas. We are defined by the one who will ultimately be the one who overcomes the relationship, connection, and love, even for Judas who cannot receive it. So good, right? So the mantra, I think, is to say this: I am worthy of God's love simply because I exist. Say it with me, church. I am worthy of God's love simply because I exist. There's this image that keeps coming back to me over and over, and we're going to just we'll be done here in a minute or a few minutes. It's of an old world map. You all know, if you can't see it over here, you know what an old world map looks like? It's it's two round pictures of a globe, and it's like a previous understanding of what we thought the world looked like. And they tell us a story about how things were understood at a given point in time, right? In the human timeline. And at that time, this is what was used to understand and navigate the known world, right? This is what they had. And it worked. But really, what's an old world map good for right now? I mean, it makes nice decoration. You can find them on Etsy. You can find them all kinds of places. It's good for study, right? For maybe how people understood the world at that time. And it was important because it was a step in how we have the maps that we have today, right? Important for us to what? The new world map that we have. But you certainly would not want to use it as a map to get across the world right now, because it would probably land you in a different spot. I mean, it might get you kind of close, and if you're a flat earther, then we love you too. But it wouldn't guide you right. But a new world map tells a different story that includes the old world map. And I think what Jesus is doing here is he's given us a new world map to look at, to be as a guide, while being faithful to the time and place he was placed in to walk this earth. Here's a picture of this new world map that I believe Jesus is trying to show us. He gives his disciples some instructions on where to go and where to find this Passover meal that he has set up for them in this room. And those are all normal, those are all within the bounds of Passover. And then he takes this cup and he says thanks and he says, share it among yourselves. So he's doing something very different than the things they would have said over this normal Passover meal. And so by way of note, like the word Eucharist, who knows, if anybody heard that word, Eucharist? So it's the Greek word is Eucharisto, and the word in the middle of it is charis. I don't have it up there. So Eucharisto, the word in the middle is charis, which means grace. So when you put this whole word together, it's to give thanks for the grace given. So we're giving thanks for the grace given every time we eat this meal that Jesus gives us in this picture here. So Jesus goes through the normal ritual of the Passover meal. He adds some new imagery to the meal that wasn't there before, this new world map. And then he says, this is my body given for you. New language. Do this in remembrance of me. And then he takes a cup and it's poured out and he says, this is for you. This is the new covenant in my blood. And I believe he is giving his 12 disciples a new world map. It's no longer about the liberation from Egypt. That's the old world map. It still has meaning, though. It still has purpose. And then he says, eat my flesh and drink my blood, and referring to him as being the new Passover. And so when you ate the Passover meal in the New Testament, that was a sign of inclusion, of covenant membership, of being part of God's people, of being protected from wrath. And so Jesus is using and pulling from all those things to hit on the minds of his audience. And he's now saying he himself is the one to be feasted on. And that just simply means to believe, to abide in Christ. And so there's one last turn I want to take here, and then we'll be done. I know I said that like 3 minutes ago. So here's the one last turn I want to take as an example of what Passover means. And so if you look in your Bibles towards the very end, you don't have to do it, but towards the very end of this passage, he says there's this one detail that's included. He says, the hand of the one betraying me is with me at this table. What does it mean? Well, it means Judas is there, and he knows that he's going to be betrayed by Judas. But here is what I love. He still chooses to include Judas in the meal, in the language of the new covenant. He still chooses to include him. I mean, Judas has to take his own personal responsibility for his actions. Absolutely. Jesus is not condoning those things. And this is true for anybody. But before Judas does all that, he gets to participate in the supper with Jesus. He gets to hear the words about the cup and the bread and the breaking and the pouring, things he probably had not heard before. And I have to believe in some way that maybe those things took a little bit of root, even though the story ends with Judas taking his own life. It's like Jesus is saying, remember to include all of the Judases at the table. The table is open for all to receive and be reminded of their magnitude of God's love for them, church. Are you with me so far? Judas had an old world map, and there was a new world map right in front of him. And we can choose the old world map, we can choose the new world map. And the same is true for all of us. And even when Judas loses his own faith and his own spirituality and his own commitment to Jesus, he's still welcome to the table, church. And so you may be in the midst of betraying your own belief system of faith that was handed to you. You may be betraying yourself with some decisions that you made that you aren't sure how to get out of. You might be betraying someone you love for money, for sex, for connection. You might have been betrayed and it still hurts. You might be the one who is not in any of those places right now, and you're just reminiscent about maybe a past time about your own brokenness. And church, I just want to remind you today, if you don't hear anything else, know this: the table is set for you too. Would you all stand for communion?